Tonight, ScoMo makes a move against environmental groups protesting coal. He was acquitted of murdering his Tinder date. Gable Tostee is threatening legal action against feminist groups exposing him online. Why zombies are slowly creeping back onto our screens and into our hearts. And we catch up with these broken-hearted batchy boys following one hell of an emotional roller coaster. This is The Project.
Tilley's here along with Susie, Youssef and
Big show indeed. Let's check what's making news this Friday, the 1st of November. And Scott Morrison is taking aim at climate change protesters after violent scenes in Melbourne this week. He's also promising to take action on boycotts of businesses that provide goods or services to the mining sector. With the music festival season about to start, toxicologists are hoping to save lives after inventing a new drug screening test. It can quickly detect 327 different substances. They're confident it will help doctors whose patients don't know exactly what they've taken or arrive at hospital unconscious. And celebs have gone all out for Halloween. The Kardashians looking to the movies for inspiration. Kylie decided to give Ariel a grown-up look, while Kim, the law student, went legally blonde.
That feels like a lot of effort, doesn't it?
Yeah. Too much effort.
It really does. And I thought Halloween was for kids, but imagine if you turned up at someone's front door looking like that.
That is incredible, that transformation. And I was going to go dressed as a pumpkin, but Trump beat me to it.
Oh. Yep.
Yeah.
I wonder if you do the better outfit, the more scary outfit, whether you get better lollies or not. I think if you scare people too much, they're just like...
As a parent, can you ask for lollies? I don't think you can. It's only for the kids, Tom.
I don't know.
Well, guys, I'm going to have
could.
to cut that short, I'm sorry, because I've got some very important news. There's some new stairs that have been unveiled at Flemington Racecourse.
Right.
And they certainly look great. According to VRC Chair Amanda Elliott, they already have a nickname.
Lovingly call them the death stairs. There's never actually been a fatality on them.
That's not a death stair. This is a death stair.
That's very good. To more news now, and Scott Morrison's pledged additional cash for aged care after the Royal Commission labelled the industry cruel and harmful. The Commission's interim report also flagged that the government needs to pay urgent attention to the use of chemical restraints.
Well, Sarah Holland-Batt experienced the brutality of the industry firsthand when her father entered the sector in 2015, and she joins us now. Sarah, the government says that it was shocked by this report. Were you surprised?
I'm surprised that the government said it's shocked.
Sarah, share with us what happened to your poor dad.
So Dad moved into aged care after a decade in the home where he declined with Parkinson's, and then a whistleblower came forward, and that was probably the most distressing thing that's happened to us while Dad's been in aged care. She came forward and told us that someone had been deliberately victimising and abusing Dad. Unfortunately, tragically not unique.
Sarah, it was really interesting you brought up that point that there's been 18 reviews into this sector in the last decade, so it sort of makes you wonder whether it's really ever going to change. What do you think needs to be done this time?
Well, to start, the government could agree to actually implement the recommendations when they're handed down.
We really appreciate you sharing your story, and particularly your dad's story, Sarah, and we do hope we see some change soon. Thanks so much for your time.
My pleasure.
It's such a big issue, though, isn't it, with our ageing population? And Sarah is so right. There's a basic fundamental human rights, and the elderly, as we've seen with those confronting pictures, are at their most vulnerable. Indeed. Don't go anywhere. We have more right after this short break. Welcome back. You're with The Project.
Well, it's easy enough to swipe right to someone on Tinder, but how much can you really know about their past? Eric Thomas has gone to a lot of trouble to escape his former identity, Gable Tostee, but one group is making it hard for him to move on.
After a night drinking with Warina Wright, a woman he'd met on Tinder, the pair ended up in his Surfers Paradise apartment. They started to fight, which he recorded on his phone.
You're lucky I haven't chucked you off my fucking balcony, you goddamn psycho little bitch. It's all on recording, It's all business.
He locked her out on the balcony. She fell, plunging 14 stories to her death. He didn't ring 000, instead he fled.
Groups like ours have the right to inform women.
So is it okay to out someone's history? And just where do you draw the line?
And Eric Thomas joins us now. Eric, why do you think this is a hate or harassment campaign?
Because it's quite literally that.
What was your plan when you started dating people again? Did you plan to tell them yourself?
Well, it all depends on what you think. It all depends on what you think has happened, because I listened to your intro there and that was very misleading in itself. You've basically lied by omission. There was no mention of the woman in my apartment being the aggressor. There was no mention of the fact that that was never disputed by prosecutors. There was no mention of the fact that I was the victim of violence in my own home and I was taking steps to protect myself and my property.
I just want to pick you up on the allegation of lying though, Eric. We did have everything, we always have all of our stories legally fact-checked. So even though you probably think that we haven't included sentences that you wanted, that is all legally correct, that story. I just want to reiterate that.
Well, that's why I said a lie by omission. That's misleading.
Eric, last month on Facebook, you wrote, "Why do so many girls sexually objectify themselves by posting a ton of half-naked pics, then complain that they are treated like sexual objects? That's like wearing a clown suit and complaining that nobody takes you seriously." Do you think that those sorts of comments, that they portray you as someone who respects women?
What exactly is the issue with that comment that you have?
The issue that I have there is that it doesn't sound like a comment that respects women. Do you think that it does?
I'm not sure what these posts have to do with the actual topic.
So, Eric, can I ask you, why did you...
And the topic is harassment. The topic is unjustified harassment. What is the justification for these so-called mad witches posting up a post which has been shared over 1,000 times, shaming me, vilifying me, defaming me, and telling people to shun me? What is the justification for that?
Well, their justification, Eric, we can't speak on behalf of them, but their justification is their concern for women's safety, and their justification is their concern for a lack of respect for women, I think.
Sure, but why are they targeting me when I've done nothing wrong? When I'm not a harmful person, I've never harmed anyone in my life.
Well, unfortunately, we have run out of time, Eric, but we do appreciate you speaking to us, and we thank you for your time tonight.
Thank you for having me on the show.
People with asthma are being told to take extra care in Sydney and Melbourne. Smoke from bushfires in northern New South Wales is still hanging over Sydney, causing very poor air quality. Meantime, strong winds and high temperatures saw an increased risk of thunderstorm asthma in parts of Victoria today. And a whinging British chef has been told to get out more after he slammed Sydney's food scene. Alastair Little claims it's smug.
I got a couple of points to make to Alastair. One, there's nothing wrong with a good pad thai, and we do some of the best Thai outside of Thailand. And two, I know your game here, mate. You want your own reality TV show here in Australia? It's not happening. That's what he's doing. He's trying to start a fight.
Wow, I've got 2 words for him. Blood sausage.
I've got 2 more. Spotted dick. And speaking of food, a 5-star hotel is open at Chadstone Shopping Centre. It's got a shiny new restaurant, and it's clear that they haven't quite got things sorted out.
Your full name and title, please.
Hi, my full name's Scott Pickett. Title is culinary. I don't know what my title is these days.
I reckon it's probably chef.
Chief Chef. 81% of voters supported more climate action at the last election, but to all those taking to the streets to make it happen, the Prime Minister today delivered a very tough response.
We're working to identify serious mechanisms that can successfully outlaw these indulgent and selfish practices.
So how would that actually work? Yeah, we're not sure either.
Matt Canavan is the Federal Resources Minister, and he's been good enough to make time for us tonight. Let's clarify this first, Minister. So exactly what is a secondary boycott?
It's a problem that we need to look at, because we should be in government to help people solve problems, and certainly should not have a country where good, hard-working Australians just going about their business are stopped doing so through a premeditated campaign.
OK, Minister, I'm going to go back onto this secondary boycott, so I just want to really clarify this. So what can people do and what can't they do?
And people can, of course, call for boycotts. They can themselves decide not to boycott, but if they're doing it in concert to try and prevent particularly competition emerging in markets, that's where it stops. So that's why it's all about trying to encourage competition, not allow particularly...
Because I'm still confused, because if someone turned up to someone's private company or business or property, we have laws in place. They are not allowed to do that. So let's talk about examples.
Sorry, there's a distinction between, you're right, people can't trespass on people's private property, but that's not what's happening here. But they are blockading and preventing people going about their business. Now, we do have a group in our society that don't like the election result, don't like some projects like Adani, which has been approved by all the governments.
Well, I'm glad you mentioned Adani, Minister, because if we look at a social media campaign, for example, that might put pressure on a bank that's bankrolling a thermal coal mine that might have environmental impacts that affects anyone, isn't that just democracy? Would that be outlawed?
Yeah, no, I don't. There's no problem with that. But I want to see other places like that built in our country, because I don't think we should just be stacked up in 2 major cities or 3 major cities.
Minister, your government has complained about these kind of boycott protests before. You tried to basically bring in these kind of laws before, and a year later there was a competition review said that there was no need for these laws. So are we just going round and round in circles venting on this, or are you actually going to do something different this time?
I mean, this is a slightly different issue, but it's all coming from the same groups.
Well, Minister, we do appreciate your time tonight. Thanks so much.
Thanks, guys. Have a good one. Have a good weekend.
Okay, so the one thing that concerns me about this is the messaging really clear from the government is we're protecting small business, we're protecting regional jobs. And as someone who lives and has a small business in a regional area, I still want to know that I can use my democratic right if that small business is doing the wrong thing.
I think they're conflating two things, those sorts of actions that are actually illegal and then our democratic right to talk about things that concern us and influence other people's opinion about where they shop and take part in those kind of boycotts that can actually enact change.
Well, to describe Toltu Tufa as an inspiration would be an understatement. She's married with 2 small children and studying psychology, but what makes her special is her role as a standard bearer for the Oromo people. She was invited to a festival in Ethiopia where she was mobbed by admirers and spoke to an audience of 7 million people. This, in her own words, is her remarkable story.
People knew my name, people knew my history, people were talking about my life when they came to ask and pose for photographs, and the representation of hope that somebody during the time of difficulty when people were too scared to say they were Oromo, that I was busy rallying people outside saying it's time to raise the language, to raise our identity, to raise our children. We need to show the world who we are.
Running a family, she's basically saved this language. I think we just found our next Australian of the Year.
Yeah. Well, you know that fabulous book that you read to little girls, Rebel Stories, Goodnight Stories for Rebel Girls? I reckon you need to include Toltu in your next edition because she is incredible.
I'm so emotional right now. I just think that that's so important, and I'm thrilled that someone like her is speaking up.
Gorgeous girl.
And the importance of unity and hope in our world.
And we can't necessarily do a quick shot because it's not fair on our TV crew here, but of course you saw Toltu do the in-break teaser in the middle of the show, and I've been watching her story with tears glistening in her eyes. So, there she is. So it's wonderful to have you here, Toltu. Thank you for sharing your story. Hey, stay with us. We'll be back soon. Oh, yes, you do. This is the project.
Guys, if there's one thing that gives me the frights, it's the existential fear that I'm alone in a meaningless universe. But a close second is zombies. Why are they so popular? It's a mystery that I'll be solving using my brain, my delicious brain. So is our collective obsession with crawling corpses a healthy way of dealing with our fears, or maybe a sign that we're not okay? Oh, gross.
I'm so not okay. I do not understand the zombie.
Don't love a cheeky zombie film, Tash?
Absolutely not.
I respect it though. It's so creative.
I don't know what it takes to be a zombie, but when Susie talked about her delicious brain, I imagined eating it.
Hey, that's it for tonight. Can you please thank Susie, Tash, Tom, Lily, and stick around for the Tom and Tilley, sorry. Tune in to Studio 10 tomorrow morning at 8:30, live from the track for all of your Derby Day coverage. Tom Tilley, Tilley.
The question on everyone's lips, did anyone see that coming?
Why aren't you now in government?
That's not the question, though.
Why do you think that works?
You realise we record this show? Good.
So sorry to interrupt. Lisa, are you just a grown adult that said the word poop?
The project on WIN.